Hi, everyone, and welcome to We Are a Crotchety Old Man,
And a woman.
the podcast for you, with you, and sometimes even about you. Right off the bat, as you just heard, thanks to CJO, he was helping us and he said, hey, you guys just got to use the Olympic theme. So I just want to thank him for pointing that out. And thanks to Abigail, who was running that because I would have been Mr. Fumbly. How you doing, Abigail?
I'm doing just fine, Arden.
So this is going to be an interesting show tonight, and I'll Abigail doesn't know why yet, but I'll tell her in a little bit. But did you know it is National Chicken Fingers Day?
Wow. Not chicken nuggets.
Chicken fingers, or
Okay.
I am a big fan of chicken fingers. What about you?
Well, I like chilies, and they're called chicken fritters.
Chicken fritters.
But they have the best honey mustard sauce and barbecue sauce, and I've liked them for probably 30 years now. They have a secondary version that's crispy. I don't like those as much. How about you, Arden?
You know, I can go for almost anywhere. I mean, I do like KFC, but one of the things I do like to make when you're not around and it's just me eating, I'll take some chicken fingers, put them on an English muffin, some provolone cheese, and some mustard. I make myself a sandwich.
That sounds disgusting.
Well, if you add some ham to it, and it's a chicken cordon bleu, it's good shit. Good shit.
Nice try, Arden. Nice try.
Anyway, let's move on to this day in history. So there's a lot of little things that are very big, but I just kind of wanted to go over actually quite a few of them. So in 1586, Walter Riley in Virginia brought tobacco to England, thus starting the tobacco trade.
Well, as a smoker, I guess I have to somewhat salute to him.
Yes, all of the people who may have, because remember they can't say it causes cancer, so they could say it may cause cancer. Way to go, Walter. The Tar Heels of North Carolina. Good name. Anyway, that was in 1586. In 1866, the first transatlantic telegraph cable was established.
Didn't you mention something about that last week?
Well, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I think it was last week, where it was the India was the last country to use the telegraph. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. That ended in 2007. So we did have the telegraph for a long time. In 1909, the first military airplane was completed and sold. In the United States, it was the first ever. No other country had it, and it was also created by the Wright brothers. So they created the first airplane, and then they sold the first military contract for an airplane.
And once again, you just said the United States was the first one to build one, right?
Yes, USA.
So, yeah, USA, baby. USA.
And speaking of USA, in 1940, the first animated short, A Wild Hare, starring Bugs Bunny, was came out after Mickey Mouse, and those two guys have been competing ever since. He's also Bugs Bunny is actually part of the Marine Corps. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yes, he actually is listed as a Marine, which is another one of the greatest episodes ever by Bugs Bunny. In 1949, the first commercial jet had its test flight. So we went from the first military aircraft by the Wright brothers. 40 years later, we have commercial jets. That's incredible.
Again, USA, baby.
And then in 1953, the armistice ends the Korean War hostilities. Very important. It didn't end the war. The war is technically still going on today, in case people did not know that.
Well, now I'm going to salute to my dad who served at the Korean in the Korean War. He did 2 years, the minimum, because he didn't want to go in because he just doesn't like taking orders. So he got the hell out when he could.
And my father also served in the Korean War, so that was a unique time. And I guess our moms liked men in uniform. And then finally, this was fascinating. In 1996 was the Olympic Park bombing. Do you remember that?
I do, and since it's the Olympics now, it kind of makes sense that it falls on this day in history.
And the poor guy Richard Jewell was blamed for it. It ruined his life. He had was getting death threats. He couldn't get a job. Everything went wrong, and he was never he wasn't guilty. In fact, the person who was guilty actually they caught him 3 years later when he bombed some other places as well.
Yeah, he was like the Unabomber. He lived back in the deep woods and took him forever to arrest him. I think he was arrested in North Carolina, but I'm not
I think
100%
so.
sure.
I think I didn't do too much research on, outside. I just felt so bad for Richard Jewell.
So basically, you didn't well prepare yourself.
It was been a long day, long day.
Not as long as mine.
Well, that is true. But anyway, and your day is still got a while to go because we want to know Abigail with sports if there's anything going on.
Well, obviously, it's the Olympics. I missed the opening show last night, but I'll talk more about that. I guess, well, Arden, let's just talk about what we do like to watch on in the Summer Olympics. I thoroughly enjoyed the gymnastics, obviously. Swimming, so. Um, Beyond that, I don't even really watch the basketball.
Mm.
But and Arda, I know you want to talk about the new things, but let's just stick with the classics. What do you like?
So I can't say breakdancing, which is now an Olympic sport. I was.
No, you just didn't listen to what I just
I
said.
know, I know. You know what? I really could care less about the Olympics. I mean, when Bruce Jenner won the decathlon, and like I do remember like really watching a lot of events. I like all like the unique events, but now I don't care.
Okay,
It's
you
sad.
just brought up Bruce Jenner, who is
Yeah,
now what's her name?
Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner. Okay, so going into the NCAA issue about women, I mean, men that are transitioning into females being in women's sports, are the Olympics going to allow that?
I think they do already. I'm
Really?
I'm 76% sure that there are some events.
Okay, so once again, you did not prepare.
I was not ready for that question. So I don't know. And I don't know, but it is a fascinating and because of SJO, our marketing guy who is promoting Toto, Abigail's dog, to get into the presidency. He said that dogs should be able to enter all events because it's not fair that men might be in some events in women's events. Why can't a dog?
I agree with you totally.
But no cats. Cats should be banned from the Olympics,
I think so.
according to Toto. Anyway, anything else on sports? I mean, baseball, kind of blah. How's
Um,
Caitlin Clark doing?
oh, well, they're on their break
Oh,
due
that's
to
right.
the basketball being played at the Olympics. She is relaxing in Mexico for a well-earned vacation, and I'm looking forward to her coming back in a couple weeks.
And her team won, right? The All Stars beat
Oh
the
yeah, the
Team USA.
WNBA All Stars versus the Olympic Team USA. Um, Caitlin Clark's side won. She didn't play as many minutes because at one point the coach wanted to sub her in the second half. But that one girl, remember, she hit all those
Yeah,
3 pointers.
and she dominated
So
it.
Caitlin just told the coach, "Let her do her thing."
Yeah, so that was pretty amazing. Um, so I actually got a bunch of stuff. I was originally going to do an Ask Abigail segment But this is where the surprise was. Today, I got an email from someone I will not mention because you don't want them to yell at them. So we have two possibles, and you could choose either one. You could answer both. So the original question was, "What are your thoughts?" Because the last time we were on the air, Joe Biden was still running for president, and so now that he's gone, Kamala Harris has taken over. But today I received an email and the question was, what is Abigail's thoughts on the opening ceremonies for the Olympics? Because there was a lot of things that you might have not liked. So you can answer both, you can answer one, you can choose your own topic. You're Abigail.
Oh, I'm pretty confident tonight. I'm going to answer both.
Oh wow. Okay. It's all you.
Well, which one do you want to discuss first?
Well, since we just talked about the Olympics, why don't we start with there?
Okay, so I did not watch the opening ceremony, and I'm glad I didn't. But I did get recaps, and overall, the first thing out of the gate, why, Arden, was LeBron James leading the American U.S. athletes holding the United States flag when he would refuse to stand for the national anthem and he chose to kneel? Explain that to me, Arden. How does that happen?
I cannot. I think the athletes vote for who they want to, but I don't know. I mean, the guy gets so much money from China directly, and I think it's a disgrace. And it's sad to see that this guy, yeah, he's maybe one of the greatest basketball players ever, but he's a slime ball, in my personal opinion.
I totally agree with you, which doesn't happen often. But a couple other, silly things is when the South Koreans came in. Was it NBC that said it wrong?
No, it was the actual it was the actual people running the show.
Okay, so apparently they referred to them as the North Koreans. That's
Oops.
pretty bad.
Especially right on Armistice Day. Oopsie. Oh no, it was the day before. Sorry, they got lucky. I have my time zones confused.
And then I watched them raising the Olympic flag this afternoon on YouTube, and they actually have it upside down. And
Disgraceful.
and I wonder if they're going to fix it.
I would assume they will when no one's around. They'll lower it and fix it.
I would hope so because I just think that's kind of funny. But things are not executed as well as they used to be in the history of this country.
Right. And yeah, I mean, it didn't help that it was pouring rain. What about the boats? Were you okay with them going down I thought that was at least novel.
I
Interesting
thought that
idea.
was pretty cool, but again, I saw the picture of LeBron James in the front of the boat with the frickin'
Right.
flag.
And then there's the show.
Yeah. I mean, Arden mentions to me last night that they did a Last Supper with drag queens and transvestites. Are they the same? I don't even know. What are they?
I'm not on yeah, I don't know.
Okay, where to start?
Good question. Where to start?
Where to start with this? They actually played up the Last Supper theme and had drag queens imitating Jesus Christ and the apostles. And France is supposedly a heavily populated Catholic
Country, yeah.
population. Yeah.
I mean, isn't Notre Dame a Catholic church?
I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Arden, you watched it.
I did not actually watch it. I watched videos of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I
Well,
even knew
right
about it.
there, I mean, I am tempted not to watch the Olympics just because of that.
Now, they came out today because they're getting such negative feedback from the Catholic Society. One of the high rank that we haven't heard from the Pope yet, but there was such a feedback. They're saying that it was a tribute to life in all of its beauty, and that the final part was this blue dude got out And he's like dancing around, and he's supposed to be the god, the Greek god Dionysus.
I know, and I saw him and he looked naked.
He wasn't totally naked, but he was. Well, plus there was the one gentleman who may have had his male genitalia hanging out while he was dancing. I saw a blurred picture. Thank you. I was very happy it was blurred, so I don't know if it was true or not. Uh, yeah.
It's just disgusting. Again, what is this world coming to? Now, what was your favorite opening or closing ceremony for you that you can think of?
Yeah, well, I have one real fast story. So, the Olympics that were in China in Beijing a few years ago, I worked with a gentleman who was a Chinese national, and he said he did not even know the Olympics were happening in his country because they control the entire media. So they were not allowed to show anything that once it was happening, when China won was the only thing they were allowed to show, and when Team USA lost, that's what they would show.
Okay.
But my favorite, Barcelona, where the guy shot the arrow over the cauldron. I thought that was cool.
Okay, that is cool. I believe my favorite one was China. And they had, I mean, it looked like 100,000 people in white squares, and they were pounding it, I believe. I don't
Hmm.
remember exactly, but it was so amazing. I'm gonna, in this case, Arden, I did not prepare.
You didn't prepare.
So I'll have to look into that, and you can post it on X.
Well, that's why it's a unique question because you don't know what questions are coming from. So, did you?
Okay, so go ahead.
I was about to say, do you want to continue to talk about this,
No,
or do you
I
want to
have
go to
one
the?
more thing that I do want to
Okay.
praise about the opening ceremony was the comeback of Celine Dion.
Oh, that was
An
great.
amazing singer, amazing voice. You know, she's struggling very hard now with a very degenerative disease, but she sang in French, so I didn't understand a damn word. But it was cool. They had her within the Eiffel Tower with the white Olympic rings above her lit up in LED. And she just looked fantastic and sounded fantastic. What did you think, Arden?
I heard her sing, and I was like, wow. Like I almost thought it was a lip sync because it sounded so amazing. If that makes any sense, it was incredible.
All right, here we go again. He's brought up. Now it's Kamala. So, are you ready?
I'm ready because once again, we went off the air yesterday, and Joe Biden was still running for president. So a lot has changed. It's amazing that it's been only a week.
Well, before I go into Kamala, I mean, the biggest joke is he, in his little statement that he made from the Oval Office, he really just made things worse. I mean, yeah, fine. Kamala apparently is getting a coronation. But the fundamental question is, Arden, is Biden going to be running this country until January 20th? Or are we going to continue with puppet masters controlling Biden to get him through the next few months? And you know how I feel about this. I do not want him to resign the presidency because I do not want Kamala Harris to be the first woman president without an election. Do you agree, Arden?
I agree to that, but I'm actually more scared of the next couple of months. As you just said, who's running the country? I am actually really scared that China will try to invade Taiwan now because Joe Biden is showing that he's just not there. And when you're running the country by committee, which it seems like they're doing, that's my biggest fear. The political side I get, and I'm really like I'm worried that they're going to spend a lot of money, sign executive orders, and just transfer another $100 billion to the Ukraine. I'm worried that they're just going to go bonkers right after the election, just go crazy because especially if they lose, why not? He's going to be coming out with uh, his idea, his plan to change the Supreme Court. That I believe is coming out on Monday, I believe, on because they want to pack the courts right away. So we never know what an executive order can be from that. So that's my biggest concern.
Okay, I just asked you what you thought. I didn't need all that because this is the Abigail section or segment for
Sorry,
the show. All
I'm
right.
worried.
So again, I'm going to delay going into Kamala specifically because we had to talk about the Secret Service and the FBI regarding testimony before Congress this past week.
Yes.
As you know, the director of the Secret Service showed up at Congress totally unprepared, did not bring specific information that they asked her to bring to the table, and it was ridiculous. I will have to get back to you on that. No, I will have to get back to you on that. No. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, those were her answers. And what Republican House member, the lady, was it Mace?
Oh yes, Nancy Mace.
Nancy Mace just pounded her. Every time she gave an answer, Nancy, you said?
Yes, Nancy Mace.
Nancy would say, that's a no. That's a no. And then finally she said, you're just full of shit.
She did it twice.
On the floor. Isn't that amazing? I thought it was hysterical. Again, a little unprofessional, but that woman was just ridiculous. And now she resigned, but obviously she shouldn't have even made it to that congressional hearing. She should have been fired after 24 hours instead of showing up at the Republican National Convention. What do you think about that, Arden?
She should. I want to. Was she? How did she get the job? I mean, I'm not going into the DEI part, but is she actually appointed by the Biden administration? Did she have the job beforehand? Like, I actually want to know how she got the job. I don't know.
Well, again, if you're asking that question, maybe you should have prepared for that.
I wasn't expecting it to pop up.
Boy, I'm being mean to Arden tonight. I don't mean to be, but
She is. I might have to throw the fuzzy thing from the microphone at her.
all right. So, Kamala, let's just first start off with the laughable video that they've shot for a commercial of the Obamas calling her on her cell phone and endorsing her. I mean, you talk about ridiculousness. And Michelle said to her, you go, girl. I mean, come on. And you gotta believe Hillary Clinton is just seething.
Oh yeah. It's so bad. It's so and the coronation, like you said earlier, like she actually has zero votes to be president. Zero. She didn't get a single, but now all the delegates now are going to her.
Well, the Republican National Committee does have an ad out that's about 2 minutes long, and it includes all of her biggest hits as far as her big liberal philosophies, her inability to speak coherently, not in the same way as Biden, but she has a way of just sounding like an idiot. Can you give me an example, Arden?
Yeah, I mean her cackle, or when she's talking about her Venn diagrams, or how much she loves school buses and her space and
Well, in her lines, sometimes she repeats them 3 or 4 times in a row.
right, right when she will talk about like traveling to space and how if you're traveling to space, you're actually going out of space into space.
Right. She talks to people like they're idiots when she's the idiot. But, again, it's going to be interesting. Yes, she's gotten a little bump in the polls, but I just have to hope as time goes on, people will see her for what she is. And that's a radical leftist Democrat who didn't even bother to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu this past week. In fact, Trump showed class and invited him to dinner down in Mar-a-Lago. What did you think of that move, Arden?
I mean, great for Trump to do that. Now, if the leader of Hamas came, I guarantee she would have met with him.
Well, I mean, the protests outside of the White House, or was it outside of the Capitol? They
Oh,
take
that was
down an
awful.
American flag and burn it, and they raised a Palestinian flag? Is
Yep.
there a Hamas flag?
Yeah, there is a Hamas flag, but they raised the Palestinian flag.
That
But
is just so disrespectful. All of those people should be deported.
well, if they're if they're the worst part is there a lot of them were white Americans, but now that is actually a crime, and you are allowed to burn a flag, but that was actually property of the United States, where defacing government property is actually something that those people could go to jail for, but they're not. So it's like the people in January 6th who trashed the Capitol for breaking windows. That is the same exact type of crime. They did damage to property. They should go to jail.
Okay, I agree. I do agree. There's plenty I could say, but I'm just going to wrap up Kamala's segment with the ridiculous press secretary trying to say that Harris was never the border czar. Okay, folks, the problem I have now is the people that have not been paying attention to politics for the last 4 years are going to believe the Democratic spin that she was never the border czar, when in fact she was, and clearly a total failure. Even as in her own campaign for presidency back in 2020, is that correct?
Correct.
She, I heard, was totally a horrible person to her staff. They had the highest turnover rate. She couldn't even manage it. So, you know,
I'm sorry. It was 2016. I apologize.
no.
2020 was when Biden ran.
Right, and she did the primary
Oh,
against him.
that's
Don't
right.
remember being segregated on the school buses? You don't remember
Oh yeah,
that?
that's right. All right. I'm sorry. It's a blur now to me, how crazy things have been. It's also with what I have seen now, it's all about forgetting. But a lot of newspapers and media that lean left happen to now be scrubbing their own websites. I don't know if you saw that, where Axios, they called her the border czar, and now they're saying, "Oh no, we didn't." They actually got rid of when they actually called her that. Now, technically, the Biden administration never referred to her as the border czar. That was created by the media. But he did say exactly that she would be responsible for fixing the issues with and why it's happening, how it's happening, and that was under her job profile that she didn't accomplish.
Fine. Either way, it's bullshit. So, I think I'll have more to offer up about Kamala in the upcoming podcast. So, let's switch to something a little bit better and more positive.
Good idea.
And that would be my two beloved doggies. I
Nice.
just want to take a minute to thank Arden. He has been spending so much time with them, even though he's allergic. But he's truly bonded with them, and they are just cute. And he takes pictures all the time, and he posts them
That's
on.
CJO. I can't do that.
Oh,
I don't know how to do that. They are the ones who are doing it. So
oh,
CJO, he's our marketing guy. I send him the pictures. That's all I
oh.
do.
So you're like Trump. Trump really doesn't post all that stuff. Someone else does it for him.
But to all the sites. He actually does type on X though, and Truth Social. Those are his.
Okay, but I think Arden does have a little bit of a issue, and I think parents go through this too. There's favoritism. And my poor Benji, he's 16 and a half, and he's kind of crotchety and doesn't like to get photographed. But then there's my 2.5 year old puppy, Toto. And Toto is like a dog model. I swear if I could hook him up, I would set him up in an ad agency and at least get enough money to pay for all the damn treats I buy them. But he's a beautiful dog who loves to just stare at you, and he's very playful. But I'll let Arden go ahead and chime in because they're now his dogs too.
Well, first off, Toto is definitely gets away with it because of his looks. I mean, he's a cute little puppy dog. You just want to pet him all the time. Benji is a crotchety old fart, but I love that dog. And Toto is also a bully. I would like to pet Benji every once in a while, but Toto will smash into you. And anyway, they're good dogs. I send so many pictures, and we've getting a lot of response for it. We had close to 750 people look at the one where he's in the crate for being a bad puppy because we post almost anything on those guys because they are people would much rather see them than Abigail and I. Mostly me. They don't like that, but yeah. So I because of we want to get more of a fun story. Speaking of dogs, did you see that article or read the article about the dog that got lost? Did you see that?
No, I mean, I've seen several really neat stories about dogs that get lost and recovered many years later. What's your story?
So there was this dog in 2015 who was actually, its name is Gizmo, and it was a little Chihuahua that got lost. Judith Montaneres, she actually lost the dog in Las Vegas. Couldn't find the dog at all. And the dog went missing. 9 years later, the dog was returned to her because she had like one of those little chips in it. And so after 9 years, she got her doggy back.
That's fantastic, but I mean, how horrible for her.
Right, devastated. I mean, and the dog actually remembers her and everything else. So that was pretty sad. And we have actually a little bit of time. So I wanted to actually, did you see the other thing about the whale that crashed into the boat?
No.
So these guys are on a fishing trip and they're fishing, and the guy just happens to have his camera out, and a whale, what is it, breaches and lands on the backside of another fishing boat. Just lands right on it, bam, crashes it, trashes the boat, and just goes into the water. The fisherman's like, just like staring. Like, I'm getting the hell out of here. So the whale just destroyed the boat without any problem, just by saying hello. So that was pretty amazing. If you get a chance to watch that video, it just shows you the power of nature.
I can imagine. That's pretty amazing.
That was. And speaking of a last story, and this happened today. So I was didn't share it with Abigail, and I'm not a parent, and unless you consider I'm kind of like an uncle to these two dogs, but and Abigail would be the parent of the two dogs. But here's a question. So I went to Dunkin' Donuts today, and there was as I'm walking, there's a little girl who comes out of a store, maybe three stores next to Dunkin' Donuts, and walks into the Dunkin' Donuts, and she's in front of me. She's like 7 years old. I mean, she's a tiny little cute little kid, and she had money in her hand that obviously her parents gave to her, and she asks for a small green tea. The guy goes, okay, that'll be, I think he said it was like $3.50. She didn't obviously know about money or to count yet, which, I mean, she's a little kid, so I don't put it past her. And she didn't know what to do. And and she runs out of the store.
Hmm.
I'm next, and I wanted I wanted my thing, so I was like, I don't care, I'll just pay for it. So I pay for it, no big deal. And I'm waiting for my coffee, and the girl comes back by herself again, and even more confused. Yeah, she's looking around, and this really nice lady said, "Oh, that gentleman paid for you." And she walks over and just looks at me and grabbed the wrong drink. So she ordered a green tea, and she grabbed some red, I guess maybe like a strawberry tea, and walks out. She walks out, and the lady goes, "Did you say thank you?" And the girl thanks me and leaves. So my question is, A, if you're her parent, do you send a 7-year old, to actually place an order and then give her more money to go back into the store and you don't follow?
Again, this is something where we just had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we think we fixed it.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so
So I was going to say about, this little girl. You know, I remember I lived in an older neighborhood a few years ago, and parents for the middle school, would walk their kids to the school bus
mhm.
or even drive them to the school bus stop because they were so paranoid about anything happening to their kids.
Yep.
Now, when I was in school, I walked 2 miles each day,
Yep.
every
In the
nobody,
snow, in the
nobody
pouring
wor-
rain.
yeah, nobody worried about us. But today's a different world, and so you're telling me about a little girl going in and out of a Dunkin' Donuts by herself carrying cash. I'll
Yep.
just leave it at that.
Oh, but
So we got to wrap it up, Arden. What else do you have to
yeah, I just
say?
wanted to finish the story. So I actually was in this. I was drinking my coffee in the store and just waiting for her. And I was waiting for the parent to come back in. But that's all I got. Well, thank you very much. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. It's at crotchety old man and a woman. That's at crotchety old man and a woman. Also, we still have our email address. We are crotchety old men at gmail.com. We are crotchety old men at gmail.com. Thanks everyone and have a great day.
You too.